so far. So let's get started. And of course, we're going to start with the school that was targeted. Now we know by the US, but we're going to go through it a little bit, and I'm going to show you how you can do some of this research on your own and how you can unpack some of this information. Make sure you, before we get started, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share, get this far and wide to all the different communities that we have here. And we want to make sure that people have an opportunity to get good information and continue to learn. And that's really the main element here, is to build a community that is open-minded, that is critically thinking, and that can really do some change in this world. Otherwise, what's the point of it all? So let's get started here. We'll play the first video, and then we'll get into the discussion. Ooh. So to start off tonight's show, we're going to be talking about what it was that hit that girls' school. And according to reports that we have, it was at this point stated to be a double tap. That is, that the first missile or projectile hit the school. And then after a period of time, when people on the ground responded to the attack and responded to the dead and the wounded, including medical personnel on scene, another strike also hit. This is, of course, illegal under international law and under the various conventions that exist, including within the rules of many nations' books on armed conflict. But, of course, it is carried out most notably by the Zionist entity and by the United States. Let's take a look more closely at this. So you can see there generally the shape of the missile, the projectile, the bomb, whatever it is at first that we can see. So now we look at that shape and say, okay, it doesn't look like a JDAM. It doesn't look like a 1,000 or 2,000 pound bomb. It definitely has a much more slender look. It looks like it has a set of fins. You can see there clearly that there is in the mid part of that object a set of protruding metal arms, basically. And then on the back, we see also what looks to be a part of the propulsion system and the fins around that. So now we're gonna take a look. Okay, so we have that as an image, right? We have that as an image. Now let's take a look at what other things we have that might reveal some aspects of what we're looking at. So if we look here, this is the Tomahawk Cruise Missile, right? And so let me just take a look here. Let me add this to our conversation here. So I'm going to remove this. All right. So all of you saw that. Let me bring this up a little bit more so you can see. So you see here the Tomahawk Cruise Missile. Now, we already know that Tomahawks were used in the initial opening of these strikes on Iran as part of this preemptive war, this illegal war that has gone on now for 9 days. You see there, the object looks, in the image that we saw, looks very, very, very similar, near identical to this. And now this is just the object in its flight mode or in its launching mode. And we'll take a closer look here. Let me just zoom in here for you all. So for example, if we look at this a bit closer, right, you can see here, for example, you see the fins here, and you see the back fins near the propulsion system. So clearly it has some overlap. There's no doubt about that. Now let's take a look at the object here, the Tomahawk Cruise Missile, as it's impacting a target. That I think will be very interesting for us. So let's take a look at that. Let me just switch the screen here. And now we will take a look at what it looks like when it hits a target. Oh, that looks, if you look here, that looks very close to the silhouette that we saw, right? Take a look at that. Take a look at that. And then if we can then take a look back at the original image, clearly, actually, let me just zoom in here. Here, let me come back to this image because this is going to be closer. And I like doing this because I think it's very important for us to do investigative work. This is part of our job. I mean, especially if we are really committed to this. So you look at that right there. I want you all to take a look at that. That is near identical to what we saw in that video. Let me actually put it up again. Let's put it up. Somebody's asking if I can see the questions. I can sometimes, but I'm not always looking at the chat because I'm busy going through different things. If somebody can collect them all, and then we can sort of jot them down, that would be great, just to help me out, because I'm a one-man operation now. So let's look at this again. Wow. Now that's at a further distance. I mean, we have a close-up. Take a look at that. All right. That is, for me, near visual confirmation. I mean, that is, and we can even go back and watch the video again. Ooh. So that to me is a visual confirmation that this was indeed a Tomahawk cruise missile that was used against this girls' school. And I'm not sure if this was deliberate targeting on the by the commanders. I'm not sure if this was AI and some bullshit system that they're employing, much like the Zionists do in Gaza. But in any case, regardless of whether it was AI or a person or a group of people or commanders or the president, everyone bears responsibility for this barbarism. This is a war crime. This is a war crime, and it needs to be accounted for. You don't double tap by just happenstance, by accident. This was a selected target. And whether it was an AI system, it needed to be double checked by a human. And I guarantee you that they selected this target on purpose. I believe that. Because you don't just, because they've targeted now not only schools, and they've hit a boys' school as well, they've targeted hospitals and civilian infrastructure, which we will get to. So I just want everyone to know. And yes, as somebody in the comment says, that was the second strike, because we saw the first one. There was already a plume of smoke nearby. So that was the double tap that we're seeing there. All right. So we've got that. And I want to now get into some of the narrative that's been floating about, and particularly a really awful thing that I read today that I want us to take a look at together. So let's look at this. CPAC head says Iranian schoolgirls are better dead than in a burqa. I mean, you can't make this shit up. I'm sorry to say. You can't make this shit up. Iranian schoolgirls are better dead than in a burqa. First of all, I'm sure many of our viewers will know, Iranians don't wear burqas. Burqas are in Afghanistan, and particularly they are within the Taliban orbit. So they have burqas. Iranians traditionally wear the chador, where you can see your whole face, right? So it covers the face. But most Iranians now wear also a hijab, and they show some part of their hair. Now you don't even have to wear it. We've seen so many women on the street that aren't wearing it. But Iranians do not wear the chador. Iranians do wear the chador historically and culturally. They do not wear the burqa. The burqa is not traditional to Iranian society. Now, it might have been historically at some point, but it has not been for centuries. And really, the burqa is something very unique to the Afghan world, and by extension to parts of Pakistan. And the niqab, which is the one where you can see only the eyes, that's something that is from the Arabian Peninsula. That's also something that you don't necessarily find very often, and that's mostly in Arab culture. So this is really, really horrific. Let's listen to what he had to say on Piers Morgan, because I thought that it was pretty horrific. So let's take a listen here.
To wait, and now it turns out it was friendly fire from a Kuwaiti pilot who mistook them for Iranians. So I just think we need to get to facts before you.
I know, Piers. I understand what you're saying.
This was definitely an Israeli missile.
Piers, even if it was an Iranian missile that was fired in response to the attack from Israel and the United States, right? Even if it was an Iranian missile, those girls would still be alive today if the United States and Israel had not launched the attack. So you are right. We don't know who launched the missile, but we know that if the US and Israel had not attacked a country that poses no serious threat to them, Israel has hundreds of nuclear weapons, America has thousands, that those girls would be alive.
Okay, but I would also say to that it is indisputable that it is indisputable to me. Well, hang on, Matt, please. Hang on, please. Let me finish my point, Matt. Let me just make the point. You're probably going to make the same point.
It literally says they're going to be in a they were going to be in a burqa. They're going to be in a burqa, and this is a barbaric society. I mean, you can't make this shit up. I'm sorry, you can't make this shit up. This is horrible. This is the level of discourse now amongst so-called public figures, these political figures in the United States. I mean, what's happening here? They're saying it openly. We've always known. I mean, if you're a historian, if you enjoy, reading about American history, you know how they treated indigenous people. You know how they treated black people. You know how they treated the Irish when they came, the Italians, different Catholic groups, the Orthodox when they came. There's a lot of these instances. By the way, a lot of people don't even know the Ku Klux Klan in New England, for example, targeted Catholics. So in Vermont, the only major Ku Klux Klan attack was the burning down of a Catholic church. In the South, the Ku Klux Klan targeted not only blacks and Jews, but also Orthodox Christians, including the Greek community. I've met some older Greeks who grew up under a horrific situation of KKK violence. So it goes to show you that the United States has always had a dark side amongst its political elite, especially amongst this elite that I think are connected at the deeper level with all these different groups and societies and fraternities and this kind of stuff that really, kind of builds this next generation of people who are ideologically committed to the same things they are. And they use humiliation and rituals and hazing for all of that. But I think that it's important to understand that the US now is full masks off under the Trump administration. There's no doubt about it. They're openly saying they want the death of Iranians. They don't mind about the civilian casualties and things like that. So that's really important to recognize here. And I want us to now make sure that we understand that this was, in fact, the atrocity was, in fact, committed by the United States. Tomahawk cruise missiles were used, and we have video evidence and forensic evidence now that we can see that points to that.